What's good, YouTube? Quasar here. I'm happy to see that Konami has released the Dual Generations tournament with 5 new ban lists. And in these new ban lists, the 5D's ban list has brought back my favorite deck, and that is Infernity. So today I'm going to be bringing you guys my Infernity deck profile, and this follows that 5D's ban list. This isn't the original ban list. If you don't know what we're talking about, I'll throw a link in the description below. But I'm happy to see that Infernities are back. This is going to be the Infernity Synchro build, so it's not going to be like a full power Infernities. We can't use any Xyz monsters, but still, I'm just so happy to see that Infernities are back, and let's just get into the deck profile. So starting off, 3 copies of Archfiend. Now that Archfiend's back at 3, this deck is viable. This deck is just absolutely amazing. This guy is what makes the deck because he's your searcher. Now if you don't know what Infernities do, basically all their effects revolve around having no cards in hand. So it's basically the opposite of what you want to do in Yu-Gi-Oh, which is like have as many cards in hand as possible. So all their effects stem off of having no cards in hand. So when you top deck Archfiend, reveal it, special summon it. When this card is special summoned while you have no cards in your hand, you get to add any Infernity card from your deck to your hand. Not just monster, but card, so just keep that in mind. 3 copies of Necromancer. Necromancer, while you have no cards in hand, you get to special summon another Infernity from your graveyard back onto the field. So that's really helpful. Gotta be played at 3. Play 3 copies of Beetle because again, this is the Synchro version, so you have to play it at 3. Basically when it's on the field you can tribute it and then special summon 2 other Infernity Beetles from your deck, of course having no cards in hand. Your other tuner, which is Infernity Avenger, this is basically your just level 1 tuner that you just loop to make most of your synchro plays off of Avenger, but there are a lot you can do with Beetle too, so those are your tuner monsters of the deck. Also, a lot of people don't use the effect where if another monster you control is destroyed by battle, you get to special summon Avenger from graveyard, and then it becomes the level of that destroyed monster. So it helps with your synchro summoning shenanigans right there. And then the last Infernity monster we play is Infernity Mirage. While you have no cards in your hand, you get to tribute it, special summon 2 Infernities from your deck, so or your graveyard, my bad. Basically another launcher. So that's it for your Infernity monsters. For just more support, we play 1 copy of Armageddon Knight, 1 copy of Dark Grepher. These basically just dump your monsters into grave to set up for your combos. And my last 2 monsters are 2 copies of Stygian Street Patrol. Basically, the only effect we want off this guy is when it's in the grave, you get to banish it in order to special summon a Fiend type with 2,000 or less attack from your hand. So let's say you do open up your Archfiend or something, get this to grave, banish it, special summon Archfiend. Continue your plays from there. That's it for monsters. We're playing 15. Moving on to spells, we obviously play the 1 copy you're allowed of Infernity Launcher. I wish this was still back at 3. I remember that format. Infernities were just insanely broken, so they obviously had to drop this card to 1 because of the loops. It was just unreal, but no, I'm sucking it up. I think it at 1 is still like great. You can still pull off so many amazing combos. So basically when it's on field, you can discard an Infernity from your hand to the grave. Or if you have no hand, send this card from field to the graveyard, special summon 2 from grave. Foolish just to set up grave. Soul Charge, which allows you to special summon, your Infernity monsters that you need. Really good, but you don't want to be summoning more than one Archfiend off of that. So, like, if you do special summon Archfiend, you can resolve its effect and then add a card to hand. But if you do summon off more than one, once you resolve the first one, you'll have a card in hand, and then you can no longer resolve the other one. So just keep that in mind when you do use Soul Charge. Pick your monsters wisely. 1 copy of Rhoda just to search out either Armageddon or Dark Grepher. Regeki just to nuke boards. 3 copies of MST. We aren't playing Twin Twister because Twin Twister you need to discard, and you're usually playing without a hand. So if you do like top deck Twin Twister, you're kind of sitting on like a dead card, versus MST can be activated right away. And then the last 3 spells we are playing are 3 copies of Chicken Game. So I'm playing this instead of Upstart Goblin because Chicken Game also has the added effect where if you have less life points than your opponent, then you take no damage. Now because we play with no hand, we want to have as much protection as possible. Also, this can remain on field for like multiple turns and give you like continuous draws, versus Upstart's only like you activate it, give your opponent 1,000 to draw, where you can have this on the field for like 7 turns, take it 7,000, draw 7 cards, and you'll most likely be protected because you'll probably have lower life points. But you want to be playing this over Upstart, protection, draw power, that sort of thing. Now moving on to traps. Good old-fashioned Infernity Barrier back at 3. This card is what made people hate Infernities. It basically negates everything as long as you have no cards in hand and a face-up attack position Infernity monster on the field. If you have that, you activate this, negate an opponent's spell, trap, or monster effect, then destroy that card. So, gotta be played at 3. Next, 2 copies of Break. Break, essentially, you banish an Infernity card from your graveyard and then pop a card on the field. So I like to use Break in combination with a used Infernity Barrier, but you don't always get the chance to do that. Try not to be banishing any of your monsters, just banish like your used spells or traps. You also don't really want to be banishing Launcher. There are abilities to recycle it back into the deck. Like, we are playing Omega in this deck too, so you can actually recycle your Infernity cards. But usually, yeah, Infernity Barrier, but if not, like, there are other options. So 2 copies of Break. 2 copies of Fiend Griefing. Now this card's actually pretty nuts in this deck because not only do you get to stop your opponent's plays from the graveyard, you get to send one of your Fiend type monsters from your deck to the graveyard. So target a monster in the graveyard, shuffle it back into the deck, and then you get to send one of your Fiends from your deck to the graveyard. So I like sending like Stygian Street Patrol because you don't want to be drawing into it, but like if you need one of your Infernities in grave, all of them except Beetle are Fiends, so that helps there as well. A lot of effects do activate from grave, so this card is pretty much always live. 2 copies of Call of the Haunted 2, because we're sending a lot of stuff to grave, you want to be special summoning it back. So like bringing back Archfiend with this, really helpful. You get to do your search and then like pull off a ton of plays. Now we're playing 1 copy of Starlight Road. A lot of people never see this coming. It's a great card great protection if they try to like Regeki or Dark hold the board, something like that. Or even if they were to activate like Twin Twister on like 2 of your back row, you can activate this. You got a free Stardust Dragon, and then you negate that effect too. So built-in protection and a free Stardust Dragon. So who doesn't love that? 1 copy of Storming Mirror Force. Now that a lot of monsters have that like built-in protection where they can't be destroyed by a card effect, you really want to be playing like Storming over all of the other Mirror Forces, because this will just send them back to hand versus destroying them. And then for the last 3 cards in the deck, we play 1 copy of Bottomless, 1 Solemn Warning, and 1 Solemn Strike. So this is basically just to stop your opponent's summons. So that is it for the main deck. Let's move on to the extra. 1 copy of Doom Dragon. This card is still nuts. Pop monster, inflict damage equal to half of that destroyed monster's attack, as long as you control or have no cards in hand. And it's still a 3k beater, so really strong, really helpful. And it's also really good if you have your Infernity barriers as a back row as well. 1 copy of Void Ogre Dragon. So Void Ogre essentially allows you to negate any spell or trap as long as you have no cards in hand. Again, it's a 3k beater as well, so that's also really helpful. And because you always play without a hand, its effect is just really easy to pull off. 1 copy of Beals, because Beals is indestructible, and then it can also gain attack if you take damage. So this card is really helpful if there's something stronger than 3k that you need to get over. You can always just drop Beals, and then usually by next turn you'll be getting over it, no problem. We play a copy of 100 Eyes, because this guy you can loop with your Infernity Mirage. You essentially banish any dark monster from your grave that's level 6 or lower, and then you gain that monster's effect. So essentially after you've used your Mirage, since Mirage can't be special summoned from the graveyard, you just banish it, gain the effect, then you tribute 100 Eyes to continue your loop. 1 copy of Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. Now I'm playing this guy over the regular Red Dragon Archfiend. Scarlight's a lot better. It allows you to destroy all special summoned monsters on board, and then you get to inflict 500 to your opponent for each. We're also playing Red Nova in this deck, so this allows you to go into Red Nova. Just be careful on when you use this guy's effect. If you have him and then a Beetle, activate effect, destroy all, and then use Beetle's effect to then special summon the other 2 Beetle. Use the 2 Beetle and your Scarlight Synchro for 12. That's your Red Nova Dragon. So we have Omega, of course. This card is really helpful. Allows you to recycle your banished cards and then cards in your graveyard too to get shuffled back into the deck, so you can use them later on. 1 copy of Crystal Wing. We're playing like level 6 synchros too, so you can just like use Beetle and then one of your Archfiends synchro into a 6. Use another Beetle synchro into an 8. So that's an easy way to get into your Crystal Wing here. And Crystal Wing is like one of the best level 8 synchros we have in the game right now, so you gotta be playing it. Stardust we have just because we're playing Starlight Road. So for level 9s we play a copy of Trish, because Trish is just too good to not play. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, which is again pretty easy to go into if you have your Scarlight on board, and then you just summon Avenger and sync into that, so really easy there. And then of course your Red Nova Dragon. So basically if you drop this guy, it's game. Like even in today's meta, still it's so difficult to get over. So like I told you before, Scarlight, the 2 Beetle sync into this. It'll probably be coming out at least 5,000, maybe even 55 if you also have Avenger Engrave. We even play Armory Arm, so if you wanted to equip that just for like some brutal damage, but basically just drop this guy and you have game. The 6s we're playing, we play 1 copy of Red Wyvern. I like to sink into this, pop a monster, and then you can just sink into an 8, so it's just really easy there. We also play Goyo Guardian. Goyo we don't go into that often, but he is an option if you do need him, and then you can just attack, destroy, steal a monster, and then you have that monster for like more synchro plays if you want, or you can just use that monster to defend, to attack, whatever you want. Now level 4 synchros, we play 1 copy of Haster. This card is actually pretty nuts too. One of the best level 4 synchros we have in the game. A lot of people have trouble getting around Haster, so this guy has to be played for sure. And then of course last synchro, we play Armory Arm, just to equip onto some of your other synchro monsters, giving it just that much more attack and just making it that much more difficult for your opponent. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.